Hi, everybody. We're here at the Red Pill Expo with the man himself, the legend, G. Edward Griffin. He's the man that puts on these Red Pill Expos. He's a prolific author and an unbelievable patriot and somebody who has represented the ideals of the Constitution and freedom for such a long time. Ed, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. Good to be here.
Yeah. It's so amazing that you're putting on these Red Pill Expos. We have tons of great speakers. Not to leave out yourself, which you will be speaking a little bit later today. We really look forward to that. You are literally a legend as far as people who are interested in the freedom movement and constitutional ideas and everything. We're so appreciative of you and everything that you do. So give us an idea of where you feel like we're at right now and how we can move forward.
Well, first I have to comment on that word legend. Makes me feel uneasy. Legends are usually things of the past.
But you're a living legend.
I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. So where do I think we stand in the freedom movement? I think is a good way to define how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. I think where we stand is right in the middle of the heat of the battle. The battle has been raging on for a long time. In fact, I sort of recruited myself into the battle back in 1960. I was a young fellow then, and I became aware for the first time that things were not going well. And first, my interest was things weren't going well for me, because although I had a great job, a corporate job, I was climbing the corporate ladder and all that, I began to realize that there were forces and trends afoot that were going to affect me and my family, and especially in the long term, I could see, gee, if the economy collapses and if we continue losing our freedoms here and there, what happens when my life matures and flowers and my kids come along and my grandkids? It's not looking good for them, So I became interested first from a selfish point of view, myself, my family, and then I began to do some research and some heavy learning, steep, painful learning. And I began to realize that the picture was global. It wasn't just me and my family, and it wasn't just America, it was global. And it was bigger than I thought. It was not only economics, but it had to do with the dignity of man himself, what makes us human. And even then, we didn't have such a phrase as artificial intelligence, for example, back in the 1960s. But you could see the beginnings of that kind of thing where humans were being considered as dangerous and had to be controlled. There were people on the political and social level talking about how humans had to be programmed and changed. Mm-hmm. How the thinking had to be changed. Technocracy was everywhere, yes. Mm-hmm. And I could feel that, and it made me concerned, and my only point is that I recruited myself back in 1960 to get involved in the war. I recognized that it was a war. Most people didn't, and most people still today don't realize that they are in a war. Absolutely. And they are the target. They are the enemy to be conquered. They don't realize that. And that's, of course, our first job. If we want to win the war, we have to have some fighters. We have to have somebody to push back and to resist.
People that understand what's going on.
Yeah. So my job has always been, since that time, is partly to think about, well, what would we rebuild, afterwards? What's a better way? But mainly is how do we stop this juggernaut and give us some time to think in our leisure about, well, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. Now that we have won and we're free to do what we wish. So where we stand now, back to the original question, I think we're in the heat of the battle, and I'm both encouraged and discouraged, but mostly encouraged. I'm discouraged, let's start with the negative side, because I see that the forces of oppression are rapidly growing. It's been sort of an exponential curve, and that's very disturbing, because I think they know that they can and probably must finish the job pretty soon, because there is a groundswell awakening happening, also exponentially. Yes. And so that's the encouraging part, you see. So we've got the good and the bad rising at the same time, And it's kind of exciting in a way, if you want to look at it from an optimistic point of view. Oh, isn't it great to live in these times, Because and I do feel that way, by the way. It's great to live in these times because probably even in my lifetime, and I'm an old duffer, certainly in your lifetime and most of the viewers on your show, it's in their lifetime they're going to be able to make a difference in how it all turns out.
Absolutely.
So that's how I look at it. I used to be kind of scared and timid and angry and everything, but I got over that a long time ago. I realized that, we're all put here for a reason. And when you're young, you don't think much about that. But as you get older, you keep thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to be here forever. Well, how's my report card going to look? Do I have a report card? And, oh, yeah, I think I do. Well, I better start improving my grade a little bit. We begin to take this awareness on that we should have a goal as a purpose. And we start asking ourselves over and over, what is that purpose? Well, if the perpetuation or the expansion of freedom and liberty and human dignity is not a worthy purpose, I don't know what would be. So these are exciting times in which to live, and we're in the battle, and let's see how it turns out.
And I agree with you. I feel like that we're at sort of the funnel's neck, when water goes down a drain and starts speeding up and speeding up. And I think that's where it's speeding up rapidly.
You can hear the gurgle, right?
Yeah. And to me, what really began to level the playing field was the proliferation of the internet and giving us access to these platforms as well as the deep state or the dark side, however you want to view them. They've been foisting their propaganda on us ever since radio came out. Really, even before that, newspapers originally they started their propaganda machine, and then when radio came out, they had a whole new tool to program us with, and then television. But now, since the last 20, 25 years or so, we have access, and the people have access to some of these platforms where we can get our information out there, and that's what's really exciting to me.
Right.
And I know personally, around 1990 was when I really began to sort of have my red pill experience and wake up. And so back then in the 90s, if you would ask me, do we have any chance at all of overcoming this dark system, I would have said very little. But now I'm encouraged, like you said, to see that now we do have a chance, and more people are waking up, and that's a very exciting.
Yes,
exciting
and getting back to the analogy of as our forces grow, so do the forces of opposition grow. That is precisely why they're so determined to get total control of the internet and to ban people like us, and to ban our message. And the shadow banning we all know about.
Right.
People are being defunded. I had something that I put up the other day and had a huge burst of followers, and it was going like this, and all of a sudden, boop, it was like nobody watched it anymore. So I knew somebody threw the switch back there at the home office. So yeah, the evil powers, we call them evil, they call us evil, I suppose. Anyway, our opponents really are in control of that, and they're determined to take this tool away from us. And this is a very important issue for us. This is where we have to win.
It is, but also there are more and more platforms popping up, like Brighteon. There's a few others that are giving us a little more opportunity. But unfortunately, at this point in time, the majority of people aren't there yet. But I feel like as they begin to clamp down on all of our points of view on the major platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, that these other platforms will begin to become more prolific, and we'll have an opportunity to keep it going there. But until that time, we'll just keep on with whatever we can, right?
Well, that's right. If you're in the battle, so to speak, if you lose a particular battle, you just pick up your body, your bruised, wounded body, and you regroup and you charge again. That's all. Maybe over there this time instead of over here.
And one of the things that we all realize that you wrote the definitive book on Creature from Jekyll Island, talking about the Federal Reserve and how that all came about, and that is one of the so-called institutions that we really have to completely do away with, along with the IRS. And what we're seeing now is there's more talk about it, where there didn't used to be very much talk that kind of seeped out into the public about what the Federal Reserve has actually been up to and what they're doing. So even Trump has, talked about it somewhat and brought it out more into the public. So that is somewhat encouraging too, don't you think?
Well, it is encouraging because when I wrote my book, and it was published, 1996, I guess, or something. I keep forgetting, but it was a long time ago. I mean, there wasn't much awareness of the Federal Reserve. Everybody thought it was a fine government agency.
Exactly.
They had no idea that it wasn't a government agency at all. And nobody was interested anyway. Who cares, right?
Yeah, how does that affect me?
Yeah. And so I thought, oh, that was a wasted 7 years of my life, But no, I've just seen a continual increase in interest. And I guess, this book we're talking about is ugly. I mean, it's 600 pages. I had to just blow the whistle and stop it because it could have been 1,200 pages. But if the reader doesn't get it by now, another 600 pages isn't going to make much difference. But I thought that it was a waste of time, and never did I dream that it would shoot to the top of the bestseller list on business books and economics and so forth. So, and it continues to do so, and What happened? Well, what happened is that the economy started to go sour. And what happened was that my book was there if anybody was interested to find out what's going on. And what happened was that Ron Paul came along and made a big issue out of let's get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
So those three things happened. And more things are going to happen because we're going to have some more serious economic problems coming up.
I think so
soon.
too. And I think that's also one of the principal tools of distraction for us, and helping them keep their power is that they constantly throw these monkey wrenches into our financial system to keep us all off balance.
Yeah, who's worried about issues of liberty and freedom of speech and all that kind of thing if you can't buy gas? If your employer can't hire you anymore, you lose your job. Well, these other issues, who cares about liberty and freedom and freedom of speech and all that stuff? I'm trying to eat and pay my rent, Sure, they play that game.
Yeah, they do. It's an insidious game that they play. It's a spiritual battle that we're in at this point in time. It's down to good and evil,
It is.
And we're all in that fight, and we're going to continue. We'll never give up, and I know you will never give up.
No.
And we so admire you and respect you for what you do. And thank you so much for
thank you.
spending your time.
And what you're doing too, keep it up.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll definitely
All
do
right.
that. Okay, thank you, everybody.